Hello, I'm Brenda Martin with Inside Huntsville, and thanks for joining me today. This time of year seems to bring about numerous house fires, so I've asked my two guests today from the Huntsville Fire and Rescue Department to share with us ways in which we can prevent fires during this holiday season and beyond. Captain Frank McKenzie is the Public Information Officer, and Fire Marshal Dan Wilkerson. Gentlemen, welcome. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
As I mentioned, this is a very busy time of year, and I want to thank you both for coming out because this is a very busy time for both of you as well. But let's start out by sharing with our viewing audience a little bit about your background. Captain, tell us about who you are.
Well, Brenda, I've been with the department about 20 years. Before I became Public Information Officer, of course, everybody starts as a firefighter. Then I made driver, and then I went up to the captain rank. I spent my last 6 years at Station 5 over on University. It's a special operations division where we do like rope rescue, confined space, that sort of thing. About a year ago, this position opened up. I put in for it and was lucky enough to be able to get the Public Information Officer's job.
And that's pretty busy, isn't it? Because you're dealing with the public, obviously, but you're also dealing with the media.
Yes, ma'am. I stay pretty busy. My schedule, the longer the years went on, the busier it seems to get.
Okay, Fire Marshal Dan Wilkerson, how about you?
Well, Brenda, I was born and raised in Huntsville, Alabama. Started a career in retail management, but it always been my dream to be a firefighter. So when I hired on with Huntsville Fire and Rescue in 2001 as a firefighter, and I was on a truck for 6 years as a firefighter, and I was lucky enough to get promoted into the fire marshal's office as a fire prevention officer investigator. I did that job for 7 years, and this past July I was fortunate enough to get promoted to fire marshal.
Okay, so just past July, you were promoted.
Yes, ma'am.
And you're excited about it.
Very excited.
What's exciting to me too, and very different, there's not many people that are born and raised in Huntsville. And in fact, I think it's something like less than 10% of the population. So I need to touch both of you guys, okay? But anyway, as I mentioned in my opening statement that this is the time of year of fires because of misuse of heaters and other things. Can you talk a little bit about that, Chief?
Yes, this time of year our fire numbers do increase. You know, there's more heating appliances used in the home this time of year. People are at home more because of the cold weather, and a lot of people are using heaters that may be outdated. They don't have the tip-over protection. If you use a space heater in your home, you want one that if it gets knocked over by a child or an animal, that it'll shut off. It doesn't stay on. Some of the older heaters doesn't have that feature. But also, you need to be mindful when you do have children and animals in your home to be very cautious using a space heater. But they always should never be used within 3 foot of combustible material. So they need to be set away from combustible material. We've had several fires already this year from heaters. So you need to be very cautious when you're using that. You know, also there's kerosene heaters out there. Those are dangerous to use in the home because of the carbon monoxide that the unburned fuel puts off. You know, a kerosene heater needs to be in a well-ventilated area, and that's going to defeat the purpose if you're using it in a home. Obviously, we don't want people using space heaters, but we realize that when some of our older homes, they may not have a choice but to use a space heater. But you never want to leave them unattended. Another fire that we had this year, just recently, was a lot of the older homes have the heaters in the walls.
Okay.
During the summer, people forget about them. They put stuff in front of them, and a lot of them have a thermostat on them to where when the temperature drops real cold, they'll cut on, and when something's up against them, it'll catch on fire. We've had several people that thought they was disconnected or didn't work anymore, and then when the cold weather hits, then when they have a piece of furniture or a box or something in front of it, then it catches on fire.
I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I want to, what should people do then? And what should we do when the weather changes and we're not sure about the function of the fireplace or whatever we have in our homes.
Well, in a fireplace, it needs to be cleaned regularly. That's one of the things that a lot of people doesn't realize.
Oh,
that
okay.
You'll have a buildup inside the chimney, and those need to be swept by a professional to keep them clean to where they ventilate properly. But also, depending if it's electric or gas, or if you're just burning wood, obviously if it's an electric heater, you want to get an electrician to come out and look at it. It's usually a minimal fee just for them to check it out. You know, if you're running a gas appliance, it's always good to have a gas contractor come check it out just to make sure there's no leaks or anything. And also, when you're burning fuel in your home, you want to make sure you have a carbon monoxide detector. That way, if the carbon monoxide builds in the home, then you have something to alert you of it. Carbon monoxide is a silent killer. You can't smell it. You know, you can't see it. So you need something in your home that will detect the presence of carbon monoxide when it gets to a dangerous level.
Jeez. Okay, Dan, another question. You have a staff of about 10, and they're responsible for conducting fire inspections and public safety classes and fire investigations and reviewing plans for construction. Talk a little bit about each one of those activities.
Yeah, on the construction side, it starts with the plans review process. Just like our building department, we have plans submitted to us so we can review to make sure that any of the renovations or new construction are compliant with the fire codes. And we believe that if you're compliant with their adopted fire codes, that you're going to build a safe building for anybody that occupies that building. From then it goes out into the field, and once the construction process has begun, then we do field inspections. And we're involved from the beginning of construction all the way to the end. Now, we don't only do new construction inspections, we also do existing business inspections, places of assembly, garages, body shops, service stations, daycares, schools. All these are inspected annually, and many of them require a permit by us to operate within the city. That permit expires every year, so we're in those every year doing an inspection. Our public safety education classes, we get into a lot of schools, daycares that we teach fire safety to children. We go to civic associations and teach fire safety. Numerous churches have invited us to do fire safety classes, military organizations, and we do a lot of fire extinguisher training to businesses within our city of Huntsville. Obviously, the best way for a firefighter to fight a fire is to prevent it, and then we don't have to fight it.
That's right.
So
that's right.
That's a key part of our fire prevention program. And then fire investigations is our other task that we have. That's once the fire has happened, we're responsible for going in there, determine where the fire started and what the cause. This is very informative to us to know what the trend is in our city. You know, if we know what causes the fires, then we have better knowledge to know how we can prevent those fires. And then in the cases where the fire is intentionally set and is arson, we work closely with HPD to follow that through to prosecution.
Okay, now Frank, let's talk a little bit about what the public information officer does. Now, as I mentioned earlier, you act as the main source for media contact, staging media at an emergency scene, so to speak. Elaborate more on that.
Well, besides before the emergency scene, of course, any kind of press releases we have, anything to deal with the media on that level, I maintain our website, which I have all our information on there from the fire department, including fire prevention. Any information like that would be on there. At the fire scene itself, when I respond to a fire scene, let's say a large apartment complex where we have 30 to 40 people that may be displaced, which has happened in the last year, I usually report to our IC, which is an incident commander. We have one guy that we work out of. He's in control of the situation. I'll report to him to find out what the situation is. I'll let the media know a place that we can meet at safely, and I'll keep them up to date on it because, you know, they need to know and tell the people what's going on also. The other thing I do is I'll have an area for the actual people that will be affected by the fire. And,
Is that right?
Because a lot of times you have a lot of people, especially a large complex, people are all in different places and they don't know what's going on. And in our process, it may take us, a couple of hours before, we really, it won't take us long to get the fire under control normally, but, in a couple hour process, people are just sitting out in the cold or whatever, I can find them a warm place to stay. And also give them updates on what's going on, let them know what we're doing, when they can go back in their apartments, if they can get something, and so forth and so on, and taking care of any needs they have. And then also, anybody that's going to be displaced, we normally call the Red Cross, American Red Cross. And I'll coordinate the efforts from the Red Cross to the people and have that connection there also.
I was going to ask you, what kind of relationship do you have with outside firms or organizations to help the people become comfortable?
Mainly on the scene, it's the Red Cross.
It's the Red Cross,
Right.
okay.
They'll come out and they assist the people in places to stay if they don't have a place to stay, or any needs they have, like clothing, anything like that. There's other organizations that after fire that I can put people in contact, such as there's a line 211 that's through United Way. They can help people get, like, say if you have eyeglasses and things like that.
Okay. And you also work closely with Fire Marshal Wilkerson on conducting public fire prevention and safety programs.
Yes, ma'am. Fire Marshal Wilkerson here, we've been talking over the last year about some programs that we can start, not only for the youth and things like that. He said we go through and we go to schools and things like that. Matter of fact, this Thursday I actually have a speaking engagement at a middle school in Hampton Cove, talking about the fire service and so on. They do it once a year. We want to work on contacting like the elderly also, to informing them of fire safety. We do a lot of things with kids, but also a lot of the elderly, and we want to be able to establish some programs to teach them. We deal with a program called SALT that's here in town, which actually stands for Citizens and Law Enforcement Together. But also HEMC's part of that, the fire department is, and we go in and we'll teach them things like fire extinguisher safety and talk about smoke detectors, carbon monoxide detectors, and how to use them safely and replace the batteries and things like that. And we've actually talked about actually incorporating some more programs in the city that deal with those type of things.
So now if someone, if an organization, association was interested in having you come out, how could they contact you?
Well, first of all, they can go to our website.
It's that's great. That's great. Yes.
www.huntsvilleal.gov, click on departments, click on the fire department. My link is there. It has my office number, and I also have an email, which is listed there, and that is frank.mckenzie, McKenzie, at huntsvilleal.gov.
And what we'll do, we'll have our producer put that up at some point in time during the show, because that is important. There's a lot of information on your website. I checked it out myself. Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of fire safety tips, and there's some things on there for kids to go and color and things like that and learn about fire safety also.
Exactly. Okay, the one takeaway that I want our viewers to know today, Dan, is what kind of fire extinguisher does one need in the home?
Well, there's several types of fire extinguishers out there, but the main thing you want to look for is an ABC extinguisher.
ABC.
ABC. There's 5 types of fire classifications. There's a B, C, D, and a K, which is like a commercial kitchen.
Okay.
If you look on your fire extinguisher, it identifies each one of those fires. An A fire, and you can see my fire extinguisher here.
Great, you brought one.
The
yes.
A fire is for trash paper fires. The B fire is flammable liquids like gasoline or grease on your stove. And then C is for electrical fire, which are the most common fires in your home. So this fire extinguisher is an ABC extinguisher, so it will extinguish those 3 types of fires. Now this one in particular, they call it a 5-pound extinguisher, but more specifically, it's a 3A 40 BC extinguisher. And what that does, it tells you how much fire that this extinguisher will put out. Mm-hmm. You can get these in local hardware stores. They do make smaller extinguishers that people like to use in the homes, mm-hmm. But you got to realize with the smaller extinguisher, you're going to be limited with how much fire that you'll be able to extinguish. So it's very important that when you do use an extinguisher, that obviously if you go into your house and there's 2 rooms on fire, this fire extinguisher is not going to do it. But if it's a trash can and maybe adjacent wall, then this fire extinguisher very well could put that fire out.
Okay, so that's the size that most homeowners should have?
Yes, this
Okay.
is a 5-pound extinguisher.
Okay.
Now, a lot of people don't understand how to use a fire extinguisher. And what the NFPA has required, the National Fire Protection Agency, is they require that there's written instructions and that there's illustrations on this fire extinguisher for people to know how to use it. So what I'm fixing to tell you is how to use it, but if you forget and you're in your place of business or in your home and there's a fire, you can always easily refer to the label for instructions. But we use the pass system with fire extinguishers. And what the pass system is you pull the pin, you aim the nozzle, so it's P-A, you pull the pin, aim the nozzle, you'll squeeze the lever fully, and then you'll sweep side to side across the base of the fire to extinguish the fire.
Okay, that's the pass system.
Correct.
Okay, wonderful. Never knew that. I've got one of those, but I didn't know how to use it. God forbid should I have a fire in my home, but what would be the most important device in my home that I should have?
A lot of the injuries and fatalities that we see have come when people are sleeping during a fire. So one of the most important devices that will help you survive a house fire is a smoke detector. Now, many homes have these by regulations. They're installed in your home when your home was built. But a lot of people don't realize that these only last about 15 years. The sensors wear out in them and they need to be replaced every 15 years. Now, the newer homes have a hardwired detector with the battery backup, and this particular detector here only has a battery in it.
Yes.
But a lot of people don't realize that when the time changes, you need to change the batteries in your smoke detector. So every 6 months. So we just had the time change, so it was time to change the battery in your smoke detector. You can simply test the function of the smoke detector by pushing this button. That'll test the alarm and stuff. But like I said, after 15 years, the sensor goes dull. It'll still beep, but the sensitivity of it has become dull and it needs to be replaced. So it's very important that you place these. You can get a battery-powered smoke detector pretty cheap at Home Depot, Lowe's, Walmart, and most of the time they just screw to the wall.
Okay, so what you're doing is pressing, because I need to do this for, myself,
if you press this button and just hold it,
Yes.
it'll chirp. You'll hear it in.
Okay, you'll hear something. Oh, yes. Gotcha.
And it's usually a little longer. I didn't do it because of the show, but it'll chirp for a period of time and then it'll quit chirping. But that lets you know what it sounds like. This is very important if you have children or elderly parents or anything, to occasionally do a smoke detector test when they don't expect it, and practice your escape plan out of your home. Studies have shown that families that had an escape plan survive fires without injuries better than those that don't have an escape plan. Many times on a fire scene, we get there, our first truck comes there. What we want to know is anybody else in that home? If you don't have a meeting place outside your home, a lot of times we'll run into a family member and they won't know if their kids are out of the house or not.
Oh my.
And you could have a family member that went out the back door, one out the front door. If you have a common meeting place, then you can inform us on who's may or may not still be in the house.
That's a great idea.
Over the years, over the last 5 years, we've averaged about 3 fatalities in Huntsville a year. This year, we're in December. We've only had 1 fatality this year. We want to maintain that trend. We're shooting for 2015, hopefully not having any fatalities. The state of Alabama this year, for the first 4 or 5 months, we led the country in fire fatalities. So the state has put out a statewide campaign that's called Turn Your Attention to Fire Prevention, and it's been very effective. The numbers have went down, and we've been very fortunate in Huntsville that our numbers wasn't up this year like it was across the state. But we don't want to take a back seat and forget about fire prevention. We want to maintain those good numbers.
Sure. If I'm not mistaken, on one of my earlier shows, I had the fire chief, Chief McFadden, and he McFarland, and I believe he mentioned that Huntsville Fire Department was one of the best in the state and have received a number of awards as such.
Yes, yes, we have an outstanding training academy here. You know, our staff, I believe, is second to none. You know, the city has been very gracious to provide us with the equipment and the apparatus that we need to fight the fires, to get there quickly. We've added fire stations. We're very fortunate that we are continuing to grow as our city grows. You know, in many cities across the nation, they've decreased their number of personnel, where in Huntsville we've been able to increase it. So we feel very fortunate.
And Frank, you mentioned earlier that the amount of land that you cover is much larger than that of Atlanta.
Yeah, the city of Huntsville, what a lot of people don't realize, the city of Huntsville covers 206 square miles, which is a very, very large area. And that's why we have, right now, we have 18 fire stations. We're about to open up number 19 in Hampton Cove, which will be our second station over there. So the residents in Hampton Cove won't have to wait that long for a second truck. And that is because of our great city leaders that we've got, you know, the support that they've shown the fire department. And I know our guys are really excited about the future of the fire department in the city of Huntsville.
And it's great that we've got new equipment. We've got enough equipment. Well, I don't know if, should I say enough equipment, but I'm sure, you know, our leadership realizes and appreciates the kind of work that you do for us. So, and with that, my producer is giving me the sign that I'm running out of time, and it's certainly been my pleasure to have each of you on Huntsville, Inside Huntsville today. We are grateful to the men and women of the Huntsville Fire and Rescue Department for the work and support that they give to our community 24/7. You know, it's not too many departments that we have that work 24/7, but you're one of them. And we appreciate your leadership and the phenomenal job that the both of you do. Thank you for sharing your views with us, and we thank each and every one of you for being in tune to Inside Huntsville. I'm Brenda Martin. Enjoy your day.
Maybe you see